Oye, mi gente, if there's one thing we love doing here at Pero Let Me Tell You, it is celebrating our Cuban culture. And that's why we're happy to tell you that Cuba Nostalgia is back in 2022 for its 23rd year. That's right, Cuba Nostalgia, a celebration of the richness of Cuban culture, history, and tradition is back May 21st and May 22nd at the Miami-Dade County Fairgrounds. Come experience the art and exhibits like recreations of classic Cuban landmarks like El Museo de Bellas Artes and El Tropicana, and of course, you know, there's food and Cuban cocktails. I mean, have you ever known Cubans to have an event without comida y trago? Oh, and we almost forgot, there's also free concerts every day. Así que get your tickets today. Just visit cubanostalgia.org to make sure you don't miss out on Cuba Nostalgia May 21st and 22nd. After all, it's more than an event, it's a Cuban experience.
Hey everyone, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is Season 5 of Pero Let Me Tell You. O'clock in the morning, you were the last to hear the warning. You were trying to throw your arms around the world. No,
Don't know this song.
Of course you don't know this song. It's on one of the greatest albums of all time.
So it's on... Wait, Music Box?
No, dude. That's not even one of my favorite... No, what's one of the
Daydream?
greatest... No.
Butterfly?
No, we're not talking about Mariah Carey here.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a Mariah lyric.
No. I'm going to run to you. Well, welcome to episode 202, because this is going to take a while. Welcome to episode 202, everyone. Pero let me tell you, happy Friday. Happy Pero Friday. How is everyone?
Well, I know I'm good because we're recording this on Fake Friday, which was Cinco de Mayo, and you made very yummy tacos. So thank you.
Yes, to go with the appropriation that's not appropriation because it's not a real holiday.
It's a Corona holiday.
Right. So,
well, after COVID, that has a different meaning, but you know what I mean.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Episode 202. Happy Friday.
What song was it?
I'm going to run to you. Woman, be still.
I don't know this song.
That's from Octoon Baby.
Oh, okay.
U2. Oh, that's right. You don't like U2.
I don't dislike U2. I just don't know U2 as well as you do.
Well, you know.
Exactly.
It's like Mariah Carey, U2, you know.
Right.
I did go through a Bono as God phase.
You did.
Remember?
You did. Remember? That was late middle school, early high school?
No, high school. And you totally hated it.
I did.
Yeah. But I mean, really, if there's a musician who would be God, it would be Bono.
It wouldn't be Burt Bacharach?
No. Wait, Burt Bacharach. Wait, who's Burt Bacharach?
He wrote like the theme to Arthur's theme, and right.
New York City.
Not the one who performed it, but he's the one who wrote it.
Right.
Yeah, who wrote it. Sang it. I want to say Christopher Cross, because Chris Cross is
jump. The Mad Dad and Vicky. Those are that is
very different things.
Christopher Cross and Chris Cross are two very, very different things. And you know which one I prefer.
Christopher Cross.
No. I'm not going to go sailing.
You're not about the yacht rock?
I have to tell you, Jump, that's a great song.
That is a great song.
That song, it's like, that's the type of music that now
it's been like lost to the ages.
Gen Z.
Yeah.
It's like, take that, Gen Z. Like, that song was a jam.
I missed the bus.
That song was back then it was a jam. Now it would be a bop.
A bop, yes.
Right.
Yes. Can't wait to see what it's going to be in 20 years.
And we would stan it.
Again, I'm having a very hard time using that phrase lately since I've been on an Eminem kick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because stan is not a good thing.
I think it's
you shouldn't want to be a stan.
Knowing you, I think it's interesting that you like Eminem. I've always found it a little
contradictory.
Not contradictory. No, I mean, you generally don't like hip hop, which is okay. Like, you generally don't like hip hop, and then Eminem is a very polarizing figure, and I mean, you've always said that you like him.
Yeah, I do actually.
So I'm curious. What is that you like? You've always liked about him?
I don't know. There's just something about him that just I don't know. I like his music, his songs.
I mean, I like Eminem because I like hip hop in general.
Right.
But it's the reason I say that is because Eminem.
It's not like I'm into Dr. Dre.
Well, no, because
But I'm into-
but
but
you
I
know
like
what
Eminem.
though? But if you were to be into Dr. Dre, I would understand it a little
That's
bit
what I'm
more.
saying, right.
Simply because Eminem had huge hits in the early aughts. But Eminem's music generally is not as commercial.
Right. It's not quote-unquote
It's not as
mainstream.
mainstream,
Yeah.
right? The singles are, but everything else is not. Whereas a Dr. Dre is all about the beat and all
Right,
about
right.
all that. So
That's why he created headphones.
right, all his songs are very danceable or like
Right, yeah.
all that. I mean, I love Eminem, so, but I've always found interesting that like what's your favorite Eminem song? Please don't tell me it's Slim Shady.
No. I don't know because I've been listening to, I've been on an Eminem kick lately, so I don't know which one off the top of my head.
I love
You know which one actually?
I am whatever you say. I am.
I like that one, but you know
which
which one? I every time it comes on, I just like I don't know. It just kind of hits me. Is cleaning out my closet.
Oh, okay. I like him.
He's interesting.
Eminem.
I find him interesting in the sense that he's always been very in the public eye, and yet you don't really know anything about him
That's true. Yeah.
because you know what he has told us by way of his songs, his relationship with his mother, the fact that he has a daughter, his with Kim, and but we don't really know Eminem.
funny,
Who's Eminem dating? We don't know.
During the Marshall Mathers era, which that's when he was in his commercial peak. I went to see him in concert, and I remember he toured with Exhibit and all these guys that were really in at that time. And there was a moment where they were like, "Fuck you, Debbie," his mom.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Come on, everybody, fuck you, Debbie, fuck you, Debbie." And I'm like, I feel very awkward and very wrong saying "f you" to this woman that I don't even know. Like, I'm not gonna partake in this, Marshall. I'm not.
I like that there was like a karmic feeling where you're like, por si acaso.
Yeah, I'm like,
I don't know how this is gonna come
I'm
back
like,
and bite me in the ass later.
No. I feel very.
But when he tours again, I would like to go see him because
Yeah.
I've never seen him live.
I've seen him twice. He's good. I mean, especially if you like his music. He's good. I mean, he's one of the people. He's with his whole catalog. You know, I always get very kind of weary when somebody tells me, "Oh, I love this person. Like, it's my like they're my favorite band, favorite singer." And then I ask them, "Oh, what's your favorite song of theirs?" And it's like the biggest hit they have.
Right.
Like I with U2 actually, when people are like, "Oh my god, I love U2. I love them. What's your favorite U2 song?" "Oh, With or Without You." Or what else? "Oh, Mysterious Ways." I'm like, yeah, no, you're not really. But in his case, when people say that like their favorite song is "Lose Yourself," I mean, that song...
That is just a great song.
That really is a great song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard for that to not be, if not your favorite, one of your favorites.
It's like I think one of the few, if not only, hip hop songs that is actually almost anthem rock.
Yeah, because that song has a great build-up.
Right.
Like, it's almost like anxiety ridden.
Because you're feeling what he's feeling.
Yeah. I'm Mom Spaghetti. So
again, not a great name for a restaurant considering that it's what you throw
yeah,
up.
he opened up in Detroit, right?
In Detroit, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I moved up there, that was like one of the first things I wanted to do. I was like, I need to go to 8 Mile.
Oh no, it's not a good neighborhood.
Well, yes and no, because in especially in the Detroit area, it's like 8 Mile, 6 Mile, 2 Mile,
Right.
and it goes on for miles.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Okay, so there's a swath of area there.
yeah.
Okay,
It's like Coral Way.
Okay.
You know, on one end of Coral Way you have
La
Coral
22.
Gables, and on the other end of Coral Way you have, I don't know,
West Kendall.
West
essentially.
Kendall, and then somewhere in the middle you have Sedanos and Presidente Supermarket.
As
you know?
should.
So that's our equivalent of 8 Mile. So
I'm picturing, like I said, I was in the middle of the 8 Mile.
So yeah, as Ish said, we're recording on Fake Friday, which this week we celebrated Cinco de Mayo. I mean,
quote unquote celebrated. I mean,
I wonder if there's any people left out there who really think it's like Mexican independence.
I'm gonna say yes because we live in America.
Que viva Mexico.
So the amount of people who still can't be bothered to educate themselves never ceases to surprise me.
Mexican independence. I know it's in September. Let's look it up. I'm gonna
Yeah, and it's funny because while you look that up, I was going to earlier today, but then I just got busy. I was actually going to look up when or how Cinco de Mayo actually became this American holiday celebrating Mexico. Because I like I said, I always call it a Corona holiday because it does seem to me like something that, Corona beer essentially said, hey, we're a quote unquote Mexican beer. Let's latch on to something. Right. But it existed before them.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. Well, okay, actually, real Mexican independence, because I know it's in September. Mm-hmm. It's September 16th. Okay. But Cinco de Mayo comes...
There is a battle.
There was a battle. I believe it's called the Battle of Puebla, which was the French and the Mexicans. Mm-hmm. And the Mexicans won.
Right.
Right?
Or else they wouldn't have celebrated.
Right, but it was a battle, and it's not something that's celebrated really in Mexico.
And like in that town it is, but that's about it.
And it's certainly not Mexican independence. Like right. So yes, here we've turned it into a commercial holiday where you just drink tequila and Corona beer,
and we call it Mexican 4th of July.
And it's sponsored by Chevy's. Right.
Or depending where you are, Taco Bell.
Right.
Although to their credit, Taco Bell hasn't really.
I don't recall Taco Bell ever doing anything.
Not really played into it, no. So, congrats, Taco Bell.
But I mean, it's sort of like St. Patrick's Day. That St. Patrick's Day really isn't a huge day back in Ireland.
I don't know that.
Not to the extent that it is here.
No, but I also think, but it is an Irish, it is an observed holiday in Ireland.
Okay, well.
Because it is a religious.
I would say that what makes one of the things, especially from the American perspective, is that St. Patrick's Day, the Irish American really take it seriously.
Right.
Whereas I don't think Mexican Americans
take
Cinco de Mayo seriously because they're like, F you.
Yeah. They're like, I mean,
not us.
I'll go have tequila like anybody else, but it's not because. Yeah.
Right. So, no, it's going to be up there. I'm surprised there's not Cinco de Mayo cards. Hallmark hasn't made Happy Cinco de Mayo.
In the shape of a piñata.
No, or like a something really stereotypical, like
a sombrero.
I don't know, like
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. I don't know, like
I heart you more than guac.
Right, they're gonna stick an avocado in there somewhere.
Of course,
an avocado with a happy face.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna have an avocado, I want it to be happy.
Well, I don't think avocados are ever sad.
You don't think so? Not even when they're like all podrido.
Nah.
Because avocados have like a shelf life. There's no way to transition out of sad avocados. So you know what? I'm almost just tempted to like dive into the deep end of the pool.
Go.
This week.
Go. You're in the diving board.
No. Tírate. So this week, aside from the Met Gala, something else big happened on the same day.
It's like abortion stole the Met Gala's thunder. The Supreme Court.
Let me tell you something. I am pretty sure that Anna Wintour is not happy.
Not because of women's reproductive
rights. But because they stole her thunder. She does not look like she appreciates a thunder stolen.
Okay, before we get into that, did you watch the whole Met Gala thing?
I saw the pictures afterwards. I didn't watch the live streams or anything like that.
So where do they put that on TV?
I don't know that they do it on TV. I know that the either it was Vogue's IG Live was doing a live stream of the red carpet arrivals. On TV, it's usually like just the recaps on ET or Access Hollywood or whichever one is still around at this point.
Is Mary Hart?
I don't know. Mary Hart's often in Mount Rushmore somewhere.
Okay, I think we
have talked about the Met Gala before.
We have talked about it before, especially now with everything going on. I mean, there's always something going on, but especially now,
it's a nice distraction.
You think you don't think it's tone deaf?
The thing is that you can make the argument that everything fun is tone deaf. If you want to just live in a world of just serious issues, then I mean, you're gonna have a very sour time of it. There's always an excuse to be like, oh, you're going to go to the movies in this day and age with everything that's happening. Yeah, I am, because I need to distraerme for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, that's a valid argument. I go back and forth on it. Like, on the one hand...
but I mean, by them not having the Met Gala, what...
No, I know. And
especially in this case, it's not like they planned it.
Right. on the one hand, I try to see the Met Gala from like an artistic perspective.
That too, yeah.
That it is art. Because some of these costumes or dresses that these people wear are like are art. Like that
Oh,
is
no,
a
for
piece
sure.
of art.
Yeah, anything couture, of course.
But on the other hand, like sometimes I go back and forth on it. It's so over the top and it's so outlandish that sometimes when I see it, it's not necessarily what I think, but when I see it and then I hear the criticism that people make that Hollywood is out of touch with most Americans and that like celebrities don't care and that it's all for attention. Like with something like the Met Gala, it's not necessarily that is my train of thought.
But you understand where they're coming
But
from.
I'm like, okay, I kind of see what they're saying here, even if it's not what I think.
Yeah, but then on the flip side is like, okay, but we all collectively put these people there to begin with.
No,
We put them there, and now we're going to criticize them for doing the thing that we told them to do.
Right. Yeah, no. It's kind of like a circular argument.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, no, back to that pool.
Back to that pool, yes. Deep end. So I'm still wrapping my head around it, and I'm so glad that you have a legal background because I have questions upon questions, and then there's questions about those questions.
Okay, well, for our listeners who have been under a rock this week,
yes.
set it up.
Okay. For all intents and purposes, this week, it looks like we are on a path for Roe v. Wade being overturned based on some documents that were leaked to the press from the Supreme Court. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. The first of which being, how did we arrive at this point? But also the fact that this is a document that was leaked from a historically, notoriously very tight-lipped organization. It's weird to call the Supreme Court an organization,
That would
but
be an understatement.
but this is a court that has always been played everything close to the vest, right? And there was a leak. There's that, and then there's also the ramifications that this ruling will have trickle down onto the states and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a whole, like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. So my first question to you is, because the way, and I think there's something maybe I'm missing. The way it's being presented is it's like, oh, Roe versus Wade is being overturned. But is that actually the case, or is it? Because I don't believe, and again, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, that the Supreme Court just decided to start looking over old cases and changing things. So this is, because again, if you hear, as most people consume nowadays, what you see is the meme, right, as we've said, which is Roe versus Wade is being overturned. That's not technically what's happening.
Actually, it is.
But it's not, but it's a repercussion of something else. Again, it's not that people are just going.
Okay, so abortion, Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973. Right? That's when the Supreme Court ruled on it. And when the Supreme Court ruled, because, a lot of times you get so, caught up in the semantics of something and the details and this and the that and all these arguments that you kind of forget the foundation of it, what it really means. So, what basically Roe versus Wade said was that a woman's right to choose is protected by the Constitution.
At a national level.
At a national level. Now, in terms of the framework, it would be under the Fourth Amendment, but for the sake of this conversation, to not get overly
technical,
legalese.
Right.
Basically, Roe versus Wade said that it's a woman's right to choose is protected under the Constitution, and as such, federally, so in the country, it's protected.
There has to be an option.
So a state or local government cannot pass a statute, a law,
outright banning it,
encumbering a woman's right to choose. Now,
that's an interesting word, encumbering,
right?
Because that's open to interpretation.
Well, all legally is open to interpretation. So, what has happened since Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973 is that
this is the learn section, by the way.
There have been countless different laws that have been passed by different states that limit or affect a woman's right to choose. So, what are some of those laws? So, for example, Alabama, but it could be any state, could pass a law that says that a woman has to have an abortion, must have an abortion
before
within
15 weeks. Right?
15 weeks. Or, well, that's what they did here in Florida now. Before 15 weeks. Okay, well, that law would have been deemed unconstitutional, or whatever amount of time. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well, that law could have been deemed unconstitutional because under Roe versus Wade, it
Any time
protects
frame.
you. Or, for example, one of the ways Texas a few years was doing was that the state of Texas passed the set of guidelines that abortion clinics had to have X amount of attending doctors. The doctors at the abortion clinic had to be registered or attending also at a hospital. The hospital had to be X miles away. The hallways of the clinic had to be 20 feet wide. Like all these specific,
Right.
all these technicalities.
More guidelines than building a
all
house.
these technicalities, and then they found that in the whole state of Texas, there would have been only a handful of clinics that would have been compliant with those technicalities.
Okay.
So they found that Texas law was overreaching. Right,
Okay.
so that it was encumbering on a woman's right to choose. So it was unconstitutional,
Okay.
pursuant to
Roe
Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
So that has been challenged all along. What has happened in the last 50 years and why it wasn't overturned is because you had a Supreme Court balance, right? That's why I tell people, when you understand the power of the Supreme Court and the precedent the Supreme Court can set and has set in the past, for better or worse, you have to understand that the balance of the Supreme Court is very, very delicate. I'm a liberal and I'm a progressive, and I don't think that the Supreme Court should have 9 progressive justices. Right? Because it has to have a balance, a very, very delicate balance. Well, now estamos desbalanceado. Because now it's 6-3. It's 6-3, right? It's 6-3 with Roberts being one of the conservatives, but Roberts sometimes is a swinger.
Roberts is like why?
Right, but he is more on the conservative side. So we're 6-3 right now. So there's a very big disbalance to the Constitution. So what happened? That there is now
So how did we get
to where we are now?
Yes.
There is a law. There is some law that was passed. I believe it's from either Mississippi or Alabama that was up now in the Supreme Court. But because now there is 6 justices
that lean conservative,
they're going to find that, I forget if it's Alabama or Mississippi, that law is valid. Or that they can do that the state can do that. And as such, Roe v. Wade needs to be they're getting rid of it. It needs to be overturned because their opinion is that it should be up to the states to determine if they're going to legalize abortion in each state and what those specifications are going to be for each state. So they're taking it back to the states. So to answer your question, the reason it happened now is because we have a conservative court. Because
but it's happening but there is a case presented to them that has that.
Absolutely.
Again, because my thing was, again, if you're somebody, and this is why it's important to read people, but again, the way that it's being sold, because we all know it's clickbait, is Roe v. Wade being overturned.
Yes.
It makes it seem as if the Supreme Court was just going through old cases pulling something out of me.
There is a current case.
Okay.
But this would have been a case that 2 years ago or 10 years ago
may have turned out differently.
It would have turned out differently because there was a balance in the Supreme Court. Right?
Or maybe not. We don't know, but
no. It had, because there have been
true.
dozens of cases regarding abortion that have gone up to the Supreme Court in the last 50 years that those cases have been overturned. Right? And Roe v. Wade has stood because there has been a balance in the Supreme Court. But now that there isn't, and the Supreme Court is grossly, because it's not like it's a 5-4.
Right.
It's a 6-3. Right. Now that the Supreme Court is grossly conservative, and I don't mean as in gross, I mean as in
majority.
As a majority.
Right.
A case like this now can overturn and will overturn. And I read most of the opinion. Well, the opinion was 110 pages, so I didn't read all 110 pages.
I'm glad you did.
Right. But I did read some of it.
Well, you enjoy that too.
They don't have the whole opinion out, but they've released experts of it, and Samuel Alito is saying that Roe v. Wade should be overturned and that it's bad law, and he's writing the opinion for it. So that is gonna be what they wrote. Now it is a draft,
right?
It is a draft. So things may change. They may. There isn't in that.
Did they provide the legal element of the reasoning in the excerpts?
Well,
okay.
Well. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We know things can feel overwhelming, from jobs to family to relationships, even finances. And despite the stigma from Hispanic families about airing our dirty laundry, we can all use someone to talk to during those moments of stress. Well, we're here to remind you that there's no shame in admitting that you need to speak with someone to work towards improving mental well-being. That's where BetterHelp comes in to, well, help. A customized online therapy provider, they offer therapy options on your time, whether it's via phone, video, text, or even live chat sessions with a therapist. BetterHelp's customized approach matches you with a therapist in under 48 hours, based on what you're experiencing, to help you better understand yourself. And as a special offer for Pero Let Me Tell You listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/pero. It's already more affordable than in-person therapy, and now you can save on your first month. Everyone deserves to be happy, and BetterHelp has helped millions take their first step on that path. That's betterhelp.com/pero. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast episode. Their rationale and their reasoning is that in the Constitution, it doesn't explicitly say that a woman can have an abortion. But we all know that that's bullshit. Because in the Constitution, it doesn't say that women can vote. The Constitution doesn't talk about civil rights. The Constitution doesn't talk about a lot of things that we have now. And one of the beauties of the Constitution is that, and this is what people have to understand, and you don't have to be a lawyer to know this, or having studied the Constitution to know this. What it makes our Constitution beautiful is that it's a living document.
Right. It changes with
right?
times.
When the founding fathers wrote, or the drafters of the Constitution wrote this,
they couldn't have imagined
the Constitution
fucking
of
internet.
Convention. I mean, you can't.
They couldn't think of the internet, you know? Yeah.
But what has been, just, if you like this type of stuff like I do, just, I mean, I read Supreme Court cases, and I studied the Constitution and the Supreme Court. Like, I marvel at it, because the Supreme Court has gotten it very wrong many times. The Dred Scott decision, Plessy versus Ferguson, those have been,
they're not infallible,
terrible, right? But when you see the reasoning and rationale throughout different other times that the Supreme Court has shaped our country and shaped society, you realize that the Constitution, again, it's a living document. It's not a static document, right?
The founding fathers probably did that on purpose, in a way.
Well, you know, whether they did or they didn't, the point is that we've been able to do that, right? Because of the way it was written. And so that argument is just, it's such a, not only from a legal perspective, it's a failing argument, but it's simply not true, because there's a lot of things that are not explicitly written in the Constitution
that we've adapted.
Right. So, but yeah, no, but it is if this goes through, unless they have a complete 180, right, they're gonna overturn it. It's going to be overturned.
So I'm gonna read to you an excerpt of something that I have. Two things I want to read to you. The first one, when this first started, you know, between looking at pictures of the people in the Met Gala, you know, like on Instagram, their stories, it was like, Kim Kardashian, abortion is illegal now, Met Gala, Roe versus Wade. So I was very conflicted. I know what was going on. This is a quote from Justice Alito. I don't know if I pronounced it right. That kind of infuriated me.
It's funny because it's Alito, but when you say Alito...
well, you know, Pim Pam Pollo. I'm always thinking of wings.
Samuel Alito and Samuel Alito are two
different people. They're two very different people. But he is quoted as saying, or in the opinion, right? That's what it is, right? Opinion?
Yes.
This court cannot bring about the permanent resolution of a rancorous national controversy simply by dictating a settlement and telling the people to move on. Actually, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it is.
Like, fuck you. Because then what are you there for? Then just disband the Supreme Court and let everybody do what the fuck they want.
Yeah, it is.
Because you're basically saying like, so then what is your job, sir?
That is in essence their job.
What is your job, sir?
That is in essence their job, to take a controversy and rule
settle
on
it.
it and settle it based on the rule of law and,
Right.
and based on constitutional.
Right.
Especially, everything they do is it's constitutionally driven,
Right.
and based. So yes, that is a very essence of what they do.
So what do you do, sir? What is your job description? Dress wearer?
Yeah.
Gavel banger?
Yeah.
Like, no, that is your fucking job.
Yeah.
That pissed me off to no end. But then I want to read something else. So, I think after 200 some odd episodes, people kind of know how we lean in this in this issue. Well, I've never been faced with that decision, so I can't speak to anybody. On a personal level, I don't know if I could go through with, having a partner have an abortion. But I leave that as a choice to the individual person to make, right? But I found this. It was posted, actually, one of the few times that Facebook posted something I wanted to share. So it says, every time the abortion discussion pops up, I like to point out this quote by Dave Barnhart, a traditional Christian pastor. The unborn, quote unquote, are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They're morally uncomplicated, like the incarcerated, addicted, or the chronically poor. They don't resent your condescension or complain that you're not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships. And when they're born, you can forget about them because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if by being born, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love if you want to claim you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners, immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, they all get thrown under the bus for the unborn.
Who wrote that?
It was a traditional Christian pastor by the name of Dave Barnhart.
Wow. There's not a lot more to say after that.
I when I read that, I was like, I literally thanked my friend on Facebook. I'm like, well, thank you for giving me something to use on the show.
So, the problem is that with this whole thing of abortion, just calling it that is not it's not what this is about. Obviously I'm very political and I'm very opinionated about certain things. So this has been something that I've had these discussions many a times before. As I tell people, I'm like, nobody likes abortion. I don't like abortion.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning, they're like, time to kill the babies.
Right.
Like,
I don't think anybody likes abortion or takes it lightly. This is not about abortion. This is about a woman's right to choose and about a human being having the discretion and the freedom to make decisions about their body and their life as they be fit to them. Right? This isn't about killing babies or killing abortion. The problem is that it's something that is with this section, this is something that's very easy to slip the narrative.
Oh, of course.
And and I got asked.
It's the same reason that QAnon is so popular.
I got asked a question one time by someone that I thought was a very interesting question. Because I've always been, and I mean, you've known me for a very long time, so you know this. I've always loved politics since I was a child.
Yes.
And I have always...
You were the only one to show up at that Halloween party as Walter Mondale.
And I have always, from a very young age, identified as a liberal. Even when I didn't know that it was a liberal...
Before you had the words for it.
I knew growing up...
What you agreed with and what you disagreed.
Everybody around me was a Republican and conservative. I knew I wasn't that.
You didn't know what that was, but you knew you weren't that.
I knew I wasn't that.
Right.
I didn't know exactly the difference between the two, but I sort of rejected a little bit that. So somebody asked me a question one time, and as I said, I thought it was very interesting. They told me, being a liberal and being somebody who's a progressive, what's the one issue that you see conservatives champion that you would say, I understand it.
Okay, that's a fair question.
I understand it.
I know where you're coming from, right?
I know.
right.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from,
Right.
And it would be abortion because, look, I'm a parent, and I remember when I first heard, my son's heartbeat in the ultrasound, at 10 weeks, I think, and I have to tell you, and I mean, I think anybody who's a parent and has gone through that experience will tell you the same thing. When you hear that heartbeat, that's what makes it real.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, they're like the size of a sesame seed.
If that.
Right? Right. And there's a heartbeat there. And I remember I cried, Right. And it's such a beautiful, touching moment. And that's what really, you're like, oh my God, that's alive. Like
There's a person there.
That's not a cell. There's a heartbeat.
It's a human being.
Right? And that makes it very real. Very, very real. So I get it. I get the argument about life, and I get the argument about that. I get it 100%. 100%. But as much as I get it, and as much as I see it as a life and all that, I still don't think that the government should tell you what you need to do with your body. That is, I've always seen abortion as a moral question, not illegal.
Especially given recent years,
right?
Where the argument has been, over a fucking mask.
Right. If you are against abortion, don't have one.
If you don't like gay marriage, don't marry a gay person.
Como dice Whoopi Goldberg, don't have one. It's very simple. But that's why I tell you that. Even in my logic of thinking of I get it. I get that it's something of life because we're not talking here about budgets. We're not talking here about policies. We're not talking here about trade. We're talking about a life. Right? Which is a very sensitive thing and it's very different. But never in my reasoning.
But it's also very personal.
In my reasoning, have I ever thought that, again, the government should tell you what you can do with your body. And that is where everybody's biggest issue comes with. And
it's fascinating to me because people feel that way unless it's about they only feel that way when it's about them.
Right. The biggest problem I have with it, and it's our podcast, so I'll say it. The biggest problem that I have with the whole argument of abortion and about life and all that, and that quote that you read adds some sentiment to it, is that the same people that are like, that's killing, and you shouldn't, abortion
that's
is
God's
should
will,
be legal, and that's God's will, and blah, 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 are the same people that, now that we're keeping the baby, don't believe in paid time off, paternity leave, doesn't believe in paid maternity leave, doesn't believe in sex education, doesn't
prevent those unplanned pregnancies,
doesn't believe that sex education should be something that should be talked to about in teenagers or in high school, don't believe that teenagers should have access to condoms, don't believe, if you really want to get at it, a lot of the people that are advocating for this are the same group of people that, for example, in the Hobby Lobby case, which was another Supreme Court case, are the same people that don't want private insurance companies to give birth control, are the same people who don't want WIC benefits to be given, the same people who don't want Medicare and Medicaid to be given to these families and these children, the same people who don't want there to be any type of welfare programs for these people, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on.
But
and
the children,
and on and on.
But the
children.
So
you're advocating for the life, but all right. After the life comes,
once they're born,
the life is born and has a social security number. Screw them. You're on your own. That's your problem. When it's in the woman in your body, it's our problem. It's our fight. It's our argument. But once it's out, no, that's your problem. That's on you, boo. That's not us. Right. Don't. We're not gonna waste our taxpayer money on that. It's the same people. So what is it? What we always say now in this day and age, it's a hypocrisy. It's a hypocrisy because I would respect you much more if you told me, listen, I don't believe in abortion because my personal beliefs, whether they be based on religion or whatever, I believe that that is a life, and life begins at conception, and I don't agree with it. I think it's ending a life. But I also think that once you have that baby, we should do everything possible.
If you need assistance.
If you need assistance, in whatever way that may be.
Right. But like, yeah, pregnancy has dropped. Teenage pregnancies has dropped. Fund programs to at least educate kids. You don't want abortion to happen. That whole argument of, abstinence. Yeah, you know what? You're right. The only way to not get pregnant is abstinence. You're absolutely right. Right? But that's not realistic. Not realistic.
If the Disney gang of the early and mid 2000s, from the Jonas Brothers to Demi Lovato to didn't Miley have a purity ring too?
I don't know about Miley, but I know the boys did.
Yeah, and Demi Lovato had a purity ring too.
Oh, she did?
Right? Yeah. If all of those kids who had a lot of power at that time in terms of public image were not able to make that turnaround,
put it to bed.
Right.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just so infuriating.
It is. And, I mean, this is where we are now. And that is why
midterm elections are coming up, everyone.
Elections
Make sure you register
matter.
You're voting.
Elections matter. And I just think that we live in a day and age where everybody loves to talk and everybody loves to preach, but not everybody lives their values. And I've actually said this about liberals too. That there's a lot of liberals and progressives who are like, equal this, equal that, save the poor, save the homeless, save the this, but they're like, but I don't want it in my backyard. Yeah,
right.
I've told you, like, the thing with California.
Nancy Pelosi's not living in Skid Row.
In California, in California, the most liberal and progressive state in the country, that most elected officials are liberals, Democrats. The poor, the homeless, we got to help them. But every time they try to, in California, especially in San Francisco, to try to establish and propose plans to build low-income housing or some type of project to help people that are homeless or low-income. Everybody's like, no, not in
here.
my backyard.
Not here.
Not in my
I'll help them over there.
Right. Go do it over there, but not here.
Right.
You got to live your values. And I think that on the more conservative side, with this whole thing of abortion, there's so many people that that are, up and, it's killing. But you know what? The day that you have an issue... Right. You go and you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, where did your morals and all that go to? Right. And I
always love that they all bring up the biggest hippie in history as their moral compass.
What?
Jesus.
I love that. Not love. I know. Actually, a couple of people that years ago had similar issues with their children. And
yes, I know exactly who you're talking about, and we know where they're at now.
Right. And it's like, okay,
now
wow,
what?
You were so judgmental. You were so this, and when you were stuck in the mud, you
did what you had to do.
You do what you had to do. So it's like, where did your morals go at that moment?
Right.
Now that you have judged half of humanity. So I just, I think that this is why elections matter, and this is why the Supreme Court matters. And a lot of times, and I don't know if this is something that we've spoken about it here in the podcast. I'm sure we have in the span of 202 episodes. But I know I've spoken to you about it in different times. In this day and age, especially with social media, sometimes something happens and people are like, the sky's falling.
Right.
Now they're going to do this and now they're going to do that. And a lot of times I look back and I'm like, not exactly. Like, calm down. Right. But, there's been a lot of talk that if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, equal marriage could be next. Marriage equality could be next. Then it could be more women's rights. Then it could even be like civil rights. And while I would say people to be very premature and cautious about
those claims,
it is something that can happen, because what happens is that it creates sort of like a patchwork. If you're overturning 50 years of law, of what is established law, right? Because you say it's not in the Constitution,
then you can only...
Then what now with
was also not in the Constitution.
What now is also not in the Constitution, because the Constitution doesn't say that two men or two women
Can get
that
married,
marriage
right.
should be married, should be. But then again, marriage isn't in the Constitution either.
True.
Marriage was put under the right of privacy, Fifth Amendment. Under privacy, that's where kind of marriage was slotted into.
Okay.
Right, but it's not
A constitutional right, quote unquote.
Right. It's not something marriage. You should have a constitutional right to marry.
Right.
That's written in the Constitution. It's something that was that
Amended?
well, not amended, but something that was enumerated from
Okay.
the original framework of the Constitution.
Okay.
But then again, you can make that argument about women. If you want to be. If you want to
go down this
a
route.
traditionalist of the Constitution, the Constitution doesn't. It was written by white men. It doesn't talk anything about women.
Right.
It certainly doesn't talk anything about black,
Black people,
African Americans.
Forget Asians.
Let alone gay people.
Right.
So if this is the argument that you have, because this is one of the things that you're basing overturning
Right.
this 50 years of law on,
Right.
then it sounds very far-fetched, but this sounds far-fetched.
Right.
Because I was actually one of those people that was like, Roe v. Wade is not going to be overturned, because for Roe v. Wade to be overturned, you have to have this gross majority in the court.
Well, step one.
But we do.
Step one.
Because I never thought that there would... I think nobody ever saw that Donald Trump in those 4 years was going to appoint 3 justices. That's 3. That's
three?
Neil
Kavanaugh?
Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and
Oh,
Amy
Gorsuch.
Cole.
I always forget about Gorsuch.
Right. And you know who I blame for this? Do you want me to? I think it's part blame for this is Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
You know why?
Porque no se puso los pantalones.
You know why? Because in the last year of the Obama presidency, when Anton Scalia died, right, and he nominated Merrick Garland, the Republicans did not want to hold confirmation hearings for Merrick Garland, and he had a little bit under. He had, I believe, 10 or 11 months left in the presidency.
So a year.
Right, and
McConnell.
Mitch McConnell was like, we are not going to hold confirmation hearings. We should to see who our next president is. And Obama kind of like took it, right? Whereas that if it would have been a Republican president, there would have been scorched earth, and he would have been like, guess what?
They would have had 48 hours in the presidency.
Right. We are having confirmation hearings next week, and if you want to come, and if you don't, that's your problem.
But this is happening.
And this is happening, and we're confirming this person. And if it's unconstitutional, I don't really give a shit. We'll figure it out later.
Do you? I saw something to the effect the other day talking, and this has become a very political episode. To the effect of saying,
we haven't had one in a while.
That's true. To the effect of saying that in a weird way, Democrats are as bad as Republicans in that Democrats have essentially carved out a niche in the political landscape as the perpetual victim who, if you vote for me, look, I will come and save you. But then they don't, so that then they can just perpetually be like, but if you let me come back, look, I will save you. No, I promise, I will do the good things. But they don't. You know what I mean? And I thought that was an interesting... interesting angle.
I don't know. I don't believe that. I just feel that Democrats, and this is not to put Democrats as like holier than thou. I just think that Democrats try to stay on
above the fray.
Yes, and they try to stay on script as much as they can, whereas the other ones are like, we're going to do what we're going to do to win the election. And if we did something, if we cross the line, we'll worry about it later.
Right.
Right? Because we'll be in office.
Como es?
Right?
Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Exactly.
I live by that motto sometimes, let me tell you.
That's what they do. And,
let me tell you.
But your day-to-day decisions
are very less far-reaching.
And that's what they do. And what happens? They win more elections. And if they win more elections, they have more people in government. And if they have more people in government, then they have more power.
Right.
And if they have more power, then they can do whatever the hell they want. And that's what happens because
what is it? Because do you know what the golden rule is?
What?
He who has the gold makes the rules.
Right. Because in the last, I think, 20 to 24 years, a Republican has won the popular vote only once. Mm-hmm. Right? Because Donald Trump didn't win the popular vote. Right. George Bush didn't win the popular vote in the first one. Mm-hmm. Right? He won in the second one. Right? As well as other, many elections. They haven't won the popular vote. right? Because actually more of the country leans center
Moderate.
center left, I mean,
Moderate, yeah.
then right. But, due to the electoral college and all that type of stuff,
Right.
it we are where we are. Which it's interesting because my opinion on the electoral college has completely changed. Once upon a time, I was very for the electoral college, and now I'm not.
At all.
At all. Because we end up with a president that didn't win the popular vote. That's not what most people wanted.
Okay, but you yourself have said in the past that the problem with doing away with something like an electoral college is that essentially they're just going to go to like California, Florida,
That
like
is true.
they're literally just going to be like
that is true. But now you're giving more power to states and regions of the country that are not populated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you really come to think about it, and this is nothing against North Dakota or South Dakota, should North Dakota and South Dakota have as equal legislative power as California?
not even combined.
And they get 2 senators each. I mean, that's not an issue with the electoral college. Now that's issue.
But I know what you're saying. Right.
And with the electoral college, like,
we also need to set term limits in Congress, like that. I mean,
Right.
good luck with that one.
Why do you think that people lose their shit over the Iowa caucus? The Iowa caucus.
It's the one time anybody cares about Iowa.
Yeah, and it's like, but cuánto rato hay in Iowa? Like. And you know that I don't like, I also get very offended when people call it like flyover territory.
Right.
And when people like dismiss these like center states.
Pero hablando en serio.
Because those are real people that have real concerns, that have
Right.
real issues in their community. And even if it's rural, I mean, they're American just as we are.
Right.
And their vote shouldn't count any more, count any less than ours, right? Because we as South Floridians, we can't imagine what somebody in a mill in the Ohio Valley is going through, or what somebody that's a farmer in the Great Plains. I mean, those are their reality. So of course they're going to look to elected officials or to candidates that speak to them regarding their realities and their issues. Right. But at the same time, especially on a presidential level, right? These people are anchoring. Or taking a lot of air in the room in that they don't have the numbers that that everybody else has.
Right. Yeah, no, it would be, essentially, it would be almost like if I was putting together a marketing campaign and I gave the highest percentage of the budget to the smallest media partner.
Right. I mean, Hillary Clinton lost the presidency and won the popular vote by 6 million people. That's not 2 or 3 people.
Right.
That's not even North Dakota and South Dakota put together. And Montana. And
Like, just start adding states together.
Yeah. I think that Montana doesn't even have 1 million people.
Really?
Yeah.
That few?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Let me look it up.
I had no clue. I don't know. I don't necessarily think the Electoral College is the answer, but I don't know what the solution is. I don't know that it's as simple as the popular vote. You know what I mean?
Of Montana.
Because, like I said, then it just becomes...
It just reached 1 million.
Just reached 1 million in Montana?
Yeah, just 1 million. Wyoming has 500,000. And these states, like with the electoral votes, they
command the same degree of power.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it's an issue that somebody should have less power or more power than another one. But if the consensus or the majority of the electorate is leaning one way or is wanting to elect a certain person, then
right.
Especially now that we see that so many people have to sort of fight for their time in the place in the sun.
Do you think that if we switch from an electoral to a populist vote, you would see a shift in party stances on certain things?
Of course.
They would both sides would mellow out, as it were, and they become a little bit more centrist because they would have to appeal.
Of course, because what do these conservative politicians do to like the Rust Belt and middle of the country
right.
and all that? Oh, Democrats don't care about you. They don't believe in coal. They want to go and do, renewable energy. So that means that you have to be a technician and, you have to go to school. And what's going to happen to your industry? And what's going to happen to your children, to your families? You're going to be left out of work now. Your communities are going to die. Right. Your church is going to die. Fear-mongering.
Right.
Your church is going to die. Your community is going to die. And your children, what are you going to do about your children?
I think it would also force
Democrats want to destroy families. Well, then again, they eat babies.
Well, they're delicious. I mean, I like veal.
Oh my god!
But no, I think on the flip side, I think you would have Democrats probably campaigning harder in those quote unquote flyover states too, because they would have to get in there and really try to make their message heard.
Right. No, and look, there's a lot of mistakes that have been done. Hillary Clinton didn't go, I believe it was to Wisconsin, or was it to Michigan? There was one of the Midwestern states that she didn't go to. And you can't do that. I mean, I know we're veering off a little bit about originally
We'll bring it back.
But yeah, I mean, elections have consequences. And my only sort of hope is that this has been something that a lot of people that maybe just were not involved politically and were not part of the electorate and didn't vote, are especially younger people.
This will probably mobilize.
Are probably going to see like, holy shit, like I need to get my shit together and vote because this is what's happening.
Well, and I think that's a very valid point, because I think you yourself even said, like, I mean, this has been around forever. It'll never go away, blah, blah, blah. And I think that if you've just been born into a world where certain things are the way they are, and you take them for granted. And I think we may see some mobilization.
You know what I think is very interesting? That Latin America, for example, that the United States and American society looks down on Latin America as like, that's
third world,
and that's less evolved, blah 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 blah. How the issue of abortion is so much more. It's not even a topic.
I feel like it really isn't.
No, in Cuba.
I
always say in Cuba it was so common for like women, like my grandmother's generation, to like they call it un legrado, right? To go and terminate pregnancies. Right? It was such a common thing, and I've always thought about that in Cuba. That I'm like, this was years ago.
Right, we're not talking like 1970.
In a very sort of sexist, machismo society.
True.
Right? And that women used to do this, and it wasn't even like an issue.
It was just something that if you had to do it, you went and you did it.
And
we didn't talk about it.
We didn't talk
about it. It was like Cruel Intentions.
Yeah. Or Bruno.
Right, exactly.
We don't talk about it. And it's just what they did,
and they were fine, until communism. But communism. So do you have another thing? Because I have one more thing I wanted to bring up. But so I'm about to show you something which I don't know if you've heard.
Listen, Parker Lewis can't lose.
So I don't know if you've seen this or not.
That blew my mind the other day. I was reading something, and the name of that show came across. Parker Lewis can't lose, and I'm like, wow, that is something I haven't thought about in like 30 years, like at all.
I don't even think they have,
like at all. But that show was like pretty popular.
It was on for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but I feel that like
the problem is that was like one of the first shows on Fox, so people forget about it.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So how there are things that happen that your initial reaction is, I can't believe this, but then you stop and think, you're like, I can believe it, but I can't believe that I can believe it.
Right.
All right. Did you hear about what happened this week? It was about 2 days ago. Our friend Billy Corbin posted about it.
We love Billy.
We do love Billy. With one of our favorite stores, Ñoque Barato.
Yes.
Okay. I had queued up the video and everything in case you hadn't seen it.
Okay, yes. Okay, set it up.
This is one of those things where I'm telling you, I'm like, wait, no. All right, so for those of you who live in Miami, you know what Ñoque Barato is.
Okay, explain it to people who don't live in Miami.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the fun part.
That's where I was going. I'm like, essentially, loose translation of the store's name, Ñoque Barato, damn, that's cheap. It is essentially because I'm walking a fine line here because I'm about to disparage the company, but I don't want to disparage the company. They basically sell like affordable, lower quality clothing.
It makes the Dollar Tree look like Neiman Marcus.
That's perfect. Thank you. Now, there's a few of those stores.
Let's
just call them out. Because listen, I'm about to call them out for being fucking racista. So it's like, why am I tiptoeing? They're never going to be they're never going to be a sponsor anyway.
I know, right?
But that's just who I am, right? Like, I'm that person who's like, they're fucking racist, but their clothes isn't that bad. Like, that's the tact I want to take. So, they are a Hialeah store. I think they have more than one location, but I could be wrong. But not many. Not like our friends at Valsang, who would never do this.
We love Alsa.
We do love Valsang. They, on their Facebook page and on a van that has a TV screen parked on Okeechobee Road,
Yep, I know exactly where it's at.
are playing a video promoting the store's line of all-white clothing. Right? Now you think, well, all-white clothing, summer's coming. Of course.
No. It's Hialeah. It's Ño Que Barato. They
Right.
have to be on brand.
Now, they say that it's aimed at Santeria practitioners.
It is.
Well, good. They're about freedom of religion and finding a niche.
I've been to Ño Que Barato, and there is a Santeria section.
Well, there you go. They found the niche and they're going for it, right? Great. Nope. What did they decide to do? They had a little person and this
And I know who they both are. And
Carlucho. He's a Cuban comedian, local Cuban comedian, in blackface. Now, when I say blackface, listeners,
this isn't black. This is like when black is so black.
This is blue. Like, and I'm about to say something that some of you might find offensive, but just bear with me right now. It is essentially like in a Song of the South when they show the tar baby. That is essentially what they are mimicking. Am I wrong?
Well, I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know.
Okay, well, that's essentially what they're mimicking. Now, Carlucho is playing a woman who has, the big mammy, red lips, and the little person, what's his name?
I know who it is.
El Enano is what they call him, is, at the store and shopping or whatever. So I'm going to literally read the caption from Billy Corbin's post. The ad depicts popular Cuban television show host and comedian Jose Perez Córdoba, better known as Carlucho, dressed in drag as a Santeria priestess and in blackface, with his face covered in black grease paint and wide splotches of bright red lipstick around his mouth. The video shows Carlucho on the phone with Afro-Cuban comedian Jose Tellez Fernandez. Oh, no, at least the little person is Afro-Cuban. Known by his stage name El Enano, who he has presumably dispatched to bring back white skirts and beaded necklaces. When the New Times, which is another local publication here in Miami,
which we love.
We do love the New Times. They're like one of those like independent, cool zines. Called Ño Que Barato's owner, Serafin Blanco, on Monday to ask whether he felt some might view the blackface portrayal as racist. Blanco said the possibility hadn't occurred to him, but that he would stop airing the ad if it was thought to be offensive. I don't think it's racist, but if you think it would hurt someone, I can take it out, the owner said. Are you fucking kidding me with this?
Well, look,
I'm indignant this episode.
Okay, we talked about this some years back. I don't know what episode when it was the play.
Oh yes, ahí en La Ocho.
In La Ocho in Little Havana.
Yeah.
There's a theater in Little Havana that plays different plays that are by Cuban, by Cubans for Cubans.
Yeah, well, I mean, they mount a lot of plays like by Alexis Valdés.
Right, and there was a play in particular where there was a character, right, that the lady was in blackface. And it was a white character, a white actress, obviously, and they put her in blackface. And I think they were going on a cruise or something like that.
There was really no need for this character to be black.
Right. Or they could have just
hired a black lady,
hired an Afro-Latina or Afro-Cuban.
They exist. We've met them.
Many in Miami.
Yeah.
Many. Anyway, and we had a conversation here on the show that we were saying, I mean, obviously we would never, ever defend blackface, but obviously blackface and the whole minstrel history of it is
very
something
American.
that happened in the United States.
Correct.
So do you give people from other countries where blackface is socially accepted, do you give them a pass? And we both said, no, you don't, because you're producing that here. You're not producing this in Cuba. You're not producing this somewhere else. You're producing that here. And here,
that
is wrong, and it's offensive.
Right.
And if you're going to do that, then you need to know what the consequences are, right? But apparently... And that was called out, and that was on the news and everything. The case we're talking about. Apparently, this kind of went over the head of
the Ño Que Barato's
people.
Management.
And yeah,
I can't believe it's 2022 and we're having this conversation. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we're having this conversation again. We're having this conversation again about our community and not understanding.
Right.
And look, I'm not one to call anybody out, but again, according to what it said, the little person is Afro-Cuban. I don't know if I would actually love to ask him how he felt about it.
Look, how do I put this?
Because on top of that,
Okay,
even
how
if
do
he
I
is
put
Afro-Cuban, he was lo pintaron de negro.
Let's just call it for what it is, and we could specifically talk to it about the Cuban angle because we're Cuban.
Cuban, right.
But I suppose something similar like this happens with other Latin American countries within their specific culture. You know, my parents watch a lot of Miami-based or Miami-produced Cuban
local
programming.
Yeah, like variety shows and things like that.
Or content. And everything they post on, everything they do there is racist as fuck. It's misogynistic. It's awful. Like, it's awful. It's stereotypical. Like, for example.
And it's not even tongue-in-cheek.
For example, there is a... in one of the shows they watch at night, I remember a couple of months ago, and sometimes I just sit here and watch this, and I'm like, you know, I'm outraged, but I'm not outraged because I'm like, my outrage right now, like, where am I gonna feed it off to?
That's what I meant by I can't believe it, but I can believe it, but I can't believe it, I can believe it.
Like, they had, like, I remember that they were doing a skit because a lot of these shows do skits.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, they're like sketch
they
shows.
had skits where they had, like, a gay character that was, like, the stereotypical, like...
Femme queen.
Yes, like, oh, mi vida. And I'm like, really? Did we really have to do that? Like, just like textbook stereotypical. Right? Not even like a little, like, let's say they wanted to make the character a little bit
flamboyant.
So you know that that's a gay. No. No, this was like full blown. Like, you know, what is it that if you fart, a feather comes out?
Right, like, a purse falls out of his mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, really? Do we really have to do this? And then these are the same shows that put women as objects, and you don't have to be like, you know, esta Gloria, what's her name?
Steinem.
A major female activist to watch this show and be like, coño, like, all the women are like always naked, and even whether it's hot or not, it's like, this is at 7:00 at night.
Right.
You know? Right. I mean, or 8:00. and it objectifies women. All these shows have always a small person. I don't know why, but they do. They always have a small person.
Yeah, a little person, yeah.
And they make, like, fun of that person. As that person, as you said there, they call him the guy El Enano.
Right.
Right? Can you imagine in, like, American culture if they referred to Peter Dinklage,
if Jimmy Fallon was like, and now the midget, Peter Dinklage.
I mean, that's essentially what they're doing in this type of Spanish local television.
Right.
And like, sometimes I watch these things and I'm like, oh. And then I tell my parents, but do you like this? They're like, no, we don't like that. We don't think it's funny. I'm like, then why is it on? Well, because there's nothing else to watch. And I'm like, Dad, I bought you a Fire Stick TV.
Your parents understand English. That was the argument that my grandparents and my grandmother would always give. Mi abuela siempre, imagínate, esto es lo único que hay para ver el televisor. It's like, well, okay, fine. You don't understand English? Yes, there's 3 channels.
Right.
I get it. Your parents don't have that excuse.
No, and my parents, have...
Your father loved to watch Nick and Jessica.
Yes.
Okay.
No, my father watches all, like, the Spanish programming in Netflix and all that stuff.
Right. There's also more programming options.
So, no. And my parents will watch the shows and these shows and be like, "Esto es una mierda. This is
Turn
trash."
it off!
And I'm like, "But why are you watching it? Like, I see you saying this every night when you watch this. This is trash." And I'm like, "But you have it on." Like,
and you're giving them ratings.
Like... I realize there's certain things that I do and watch that I hate, that I do it to
you
them.
Hate watch. Yeah.
I hate watch. But that's every now and then. We all hate watch.
Yeah, we do.
But when you watch these shows, right, and you look at it from kind of an American perspective, it's like, oh my God, if the equivalent to this would be on American television, there would be rightfully so. There would like we're scorched earth.
Yes, and then some.
Because it's terrible. It's terrible. So yes, as you said, it's surprising but not surprising.
And then I'm surprised that I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
like it's a horribly vicious cycle.
Yeah,
like I can't.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, what we always say. Not that I think,
keep having this
not
argument.
that I think that Ñoque Barato has a board of directors.
Right. You know, Joan Crawford is
right. But I'm sure that even in that a much smaller enterprise that they are, and it's probably local family owned.
Let's say there's 3 people.
That there wasn't anybody in that stratosphere that was like, maybe this is not a good idea.
But you know why there wasn't, Darian? I guarantee you the average age of the people in that room was, what, 62?
That's keeping it.
And I made them young.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know what? There was opportunities there across the board. There was, like you said, the board of directors of Niño Que Barato.
Yeah.
But then also, there were 2 actors who showed up and said, sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's another thing. You can have the idea, but now you got to go find somebody to implement it.
Right. Yeah, nobody was like, this is not a good idea.
Right. And the worst part about it is, at the end of the day, there will be 0 repercussions.
No, yeah.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they're going to, I mean, they have like, what, 2 stores? It's not like they're going to close.
There was this show at 7 o'clock called, what was it called? The show de Fernando.
Fernando. Yeah, Fernando.
That I ran for years. And it's funny because he's since passed. What I always used to get really frustrated about that show was that he actually was very talented, and he was a very good interviewer, right? And he would bring like musicians from Cuba and stuff like that, and he would be a very good interviewer. But then, and again, it's one of these things that like it's a chicken and the egg argument. He knew who his audience was, so the show was filled with, again, like half naked. No, half naked would be that mean that they were half naked. No, this was like almost fully naked women at that time, and I'd be like, but this is at 7 o'clock,
right?
Like,
where's the FCC?
Yes, well, and they used to have skits that were extremely sexist, like extreme, and you know that I don't get offended, right?
Right.
But I'm like, oh my, I would watch that, and he finally got fined by the
FCC?
The FCC. I was saying the FDA. The FCC.
Them too?
He finally got fined by the FCC.
Oh, really?
And I actually saw the skit live when they aired it. That he was. It was a skit at a doctor's office, and he was the patient, and he had a sheet over him. And when the sexy nurse came in, you know, something rose under the sheet.
Right.
And I remember being like, "Oh my god, pero esto es a las 7 de la noche." Like,
it's a family hour.
Yes, but what are they like? I remember watching that being like, "Wow." And he got fined.
You wouldn't even see that on a 10 o'clock drama.
On a 10 o'clock drama.
No, I'm saying like let's put the last thing before.
I don't think you would see that on network television.
That's what I'm saying. No, like a network television drama at 10 p.m., which is, you know, the latest show time. And
that's SVU.
Yeah, well, that, you don't want to see that on SVU because we're supposed to, not want to be the rapist.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that not even like SVU,
which is approaching it from like a scientific, right.
It's a serious show that's later at night, would have something like that. But yeah, no. That's
these shows make Benny Hill look like Masterpiece Theater.
Oh yeah, no. Every time I think of Benny Hill, I think of like that opening shot of the Capitol.
Me too.
Which is
on the Thames.
Which is not the Capitol, it's a church. But and then I think of Stewie. Oh, we're gonna have one of my sexy parties. It's funny that Tristan asks me about Family Guy all the time because I love to watch scenes of Family Guy. Just like earlier today, I was quoting "Where's my money, man?
Oh yeah,
where's my money? Got
$2.
money to buy $2 mustaches, fake mustaches, but not to pay me. Where's my money, man?" And I'm always saying stuff like that. So I've shown him a few like just see, like I've shown him the Mama Lois.
Okay, right. Like the
Lois.
acceptable,
right.
Right.
And I'm like, shit, I can't wait for him to be old enough to watch Family Guy, because once he gets into Family Guy, that he's old enough, like he'll start putting the episodes, so I'll watch the episodes too.
Right. Yeah, but that he needs to be a certain age, because there's just, especially him, he doesn't let things fly over his head.
Right. The problem
he catches them in a net and then asks you the question.
Exactly. He's gonna ask me, and then it's gonna turn into like a Q&A.
Right.
Of questions that I don't want to answer, but then he's not going to let the question go
at all.
So even if I beat around the bush with the question, he's still going to be like, "Why aren't you answering me?" Like, what? Like, what? Hello.
It's literally going to turn into that skit. Mom,
yes,
mama.
Yeah. But it's like, oh my god, Family Guy is like gold. Like, it's great. It's so good.
It's great, but look, there's an instance, and I know there are people who will disagree with us, but Family Guy has been, the claims that it's misogynistic, it's racist, it's this. But you have to understand that Family Guy is doing it with a wink. Like, they are basically saying, this is, we're laughing at this behavior.
I actually have
promoting it.
I have a really good quote, a really good example of that. I forget where I read it or who said it. I don't know if it was somebody we interviewed for the podcast, but Que Pasa USA is a good example of that, right? Because what when you think back, what is one of the more troublesome episodes of Que Pasa USA? When
The computer friend?
the computer friend.
Yeah.
When Carmen, her computer friend,
Matches her up with a black guy.
matches her up with a black guy. And when the black guy comes into the house, her dad and her grandparents freak out.
Yeah.
Right. But how were they very in your face telling you that the grandparents
Were wrong.
And they were wrong.
Right.
And they're like, you're being ridiculous. You're being an asshole. Like,
Right, yeah.
Right? They did it in through comedy.
Right.
But it wasn't in any way, shape, or form either glorified or just you like.
Right.
Like,
No, they called it out.
They called it out. And this was in the 70s.
Right.
And this was a local production.
I think we have more of a budget than they
Right? This was a local production. And they made fun of something that does happen. Does happen, and even then they were able to call it out and ridicule the racist or the racist behavior, right. But again, the example that you're giving, it's like, oh, it's very as a matter of fact, like, oh yeah,
It's like, oh, people are offended by that?
by blackface. Oh,
Interesting.
I've never heard of it.
I'll think about it. I don't know. Who the fuck knew?
Oh yeah, you know who turns 26 this year?
I have no clue because that's a random ass age.
The dancing baby.
Oh, wow.
Ay, it's a dancing baby, me yaman.
So he's a dancing entry level now?
What was it? What was that show from?
Ally McBeal?
Where was I thinking? Vera?
Were you going to say Vonda Shepard?
Yes, I was saying the singer.
You were
right?
thinking of Vonda Shepard,
was.
yes. See, that is the type of shit that only I would guess from you. Like earlier today, oh, from Who's the Boss? Leah Remini? Like, who was in one episode?
Yeah, I never watched this. That's not true. I was about to say I never watched a single episode of Ally McBeal, but I actually did. I saw one.
Mariah was in one?
There was an episode Mariah was in. Did you know the episode?
No, but...
Where she carried a light everywhere she went. She carried, like, people with lighting.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. So
and she testified in court. She testified in court and she was nervous. And she tells the judge, I need my lighting. And they had, like...
So she's been doing this shtick for years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because Ally McBeal was so popular for
its time.
Calista Flockhart was like...
Was a total thing.
Yeah.
And now she's just married to Harrison Ford.
Yeah. But you don't hear about her. And
she did Brothers and Sisters a couple of years back, and then she was in one season of Supergirl, and that was it. She was raising her kid with Harrison Ford.
Oh, yeah. Are you watching...
I mean, if you're married to Indiana Jones and Han Solo.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. Eso para tu wea. Like, being an actor, it's like, man, you have two of the most iconic characters. I mean...
Ever. Like, pack it in. You're done.
And it's interesting because with the case of Harrison Ford, I mean, he was able to have such a long career.
Right, yeah.
So many different things. Like, he wasn't typecasted.
No,
even though
not really. I mean, in a way, but not really.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say? I completely forgot now. Are you excited? I don't know, maybe listeners. Are you excited about the new Top Gun? Why are they doing a new Top Gun?
I could care less.
You see Tom Cruise, like...
On the helicopter?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It's like, okay. Yeah, we get it. You do stunts, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. Just go become a stunt person. I just don't like that individual. I never have.
Well, Tom Cruise has made us thirsty.
This is true, but not in that way.
So, no. Oh, no, my God. Oh, no. So you go.
So you want me to go first?
It's soda time.
It is soda time. So I'm actually going to keep it short and sweet, sort of. I'm going to try. So this week has just been kind of a shit show in terms of like just a lot of stuff coming at me. So I'm going to give it to two of the 5 women that always make me happy. Mel B and Emma Bunton, specifically because they are currently on this season of Netflix's reality game show thing, The Circle. They're playing as themselves. They're living together. It's wonderful to see Baby and Scary like hanging out, eating, making tea, trying to trick the other people into thinking that they're this guy, that they've created the persona. I just, you know what, whenever I have any of those 5 women on screen, it just brings a smile to my face, and I can just check out for a little while. So, you know what? Baby and Scary.
Very good. Very, very good. It's always good to end with a Spice Girl or 2 Spice Girls.
Right? The more spice is it's like KFC.
The more spice, the better.
Yeah.
and this was actually a good week for Melanie because she got...
oh, that's right. She OBE.
Yes, Order of the British Empire, which for those listeners who don't know what that is, that's sort of like the equivalent of... what is it?
Like a Medal of Honor?
Like the Presidential Medal of Honor. It's like the highest... It's the highest honor a civilian can receive, but this is in England, obviously, in the UK, which is Order of the British Empire. And that's when they call you Sir or...
oh, so now she's a dame.
Yes.
So she's Dame Scary Spice?
Yes, she is.
Oh, I like it.
Who was going to say that? One of the Spice Girls.
I know. She's the only one, right? That's a dame?
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. We would have known if...
That's true.
I feel like Victoria Beckham should get one for, I don't know, her...
contribution to fashion.
To fashion, and him for his contribution to...
bringing soccer to the U.S.
David, we are giving you the Order of the British Empire for taking... taking a football to those, those
traitors.
Those traitors over there. So, yeah, it's a good week for her.
Yes.
So I'm gonna give a gasless soda this week.
All right.
Remember when I told you some months ago that it wasn't a gasless soda. It was gonna be like a smoothie.
The chapapote. Yeah.
A chapapote smoothie.
Oh no, another one.
I'm gonna give one to Matt Gates.
Oh, lovely Matt Gates.
Did you hear about the quote? What he tweeted?
I actually did see it because a friend of ours reposted it.
Well, it's all over.
Well, no, but I saw it because she reposted it. Because honestly, because of all this happening with Roe versus Wade, I've tried to stay away from social media because I don't want to be bombarded with people's opinions.
Yeah, well, this is everywhere. But he tweeted, this is Matt Gates. This is an elected official. How many of the women rallying against overturning Roe are overeducated, underloved millennials who sadly return from protests to a lonely microwave dinner with their cats and no Bumble matches? First of all, some of these microwave dinners are delicious.
That's true.
Like,
sir, you need a hot pocket.
Yeah. Matt, you're probably still thinking of the old Swanson.
But he's not that old.
No, he's younger than we are. And second of all, and most importantly, hold on. Second of all, and most importantly, Matt, what is an overeducated woman? That's my question. So there is such thing as an overeducated woman, because what you're implying is that an overeducated woman is a woman that has too much education. So somehow this is a bad thing. Are there overeducated men? So are we talking that education is bad? I have a lot of questions, Matt Gates.
You have questions, but do you really want to hear his answers?
I know. I don't.
See, that's the part of it, right? It's like, it's not that you have questions. It's like, do you really want to hear his answers?
Whatever. Anyway, everybody, that was our show today. Lots of heavy topics.
And actually, before we go, I do want to just say we are going to be doing a live show on Thursday, May 19th at Dos Croquetas at 7 p.m. So if you've been listening to us, if you've wanted to always see, meet us in person, see us live, and enjoy the freaking delicious croquetas at Dos Croquetas.
Oh, that's going to be a hard one to record and eat croquetas.
Well, we you know what? We like a challenge. Yeah. That's the thing. So, we'll remind you guys again and we'll post about it, but just putting it out there, May 19th, it's a Thursday, Dos Croquetas on Bird Road.
So, well, everybody, we hope you listen, laughed, and learned. And as always, remember to grab your croqueta.
There you go.
Your pastelito and your cafecito. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Friday, Pero Friday.
Woo, cuídense.
Bye.
Bye.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex. the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.